Hi, I'm Cindy Winget, the author of The Apparition, and welcome to my channel. So in last week's video, we talked about my 10 best favorite books of the year 2025. So now we're going to be talking about my 10 worst books of 2025. So these are the books that I really didn't care for and probably should have DNF'd but didn't. So we're going to start off with a couple of YA books. We have Death at Morning House, and I normally absolutely adore Maureen Johnson's novels, but for some reason this one just didn't work for me. I just couldn't connect to it. I wasn't really enthralled with the main character. I didn't really care about the mystery, and it seemed a little bit too straightforward. So like instead of trying to figure out the mystery, they would just spoon feeding it with like flashbacks and stuff, which just wasn't my favorite. I should say that I'm not going to be giving synopsises for all these books, so you can go ahead and pause it and look it up for yourself. If you want to know what these books are about, I'm just going to talk about why they didn't work for me. And then next we have These Fleeting Shadows by Kate Alice Marshall. And I love haunted house books, and I was very, very excited for this one. And in the beginning, I really liked it. You know, you have the whole inheritance thing with the old house and all of the gothic vibes and all of that. But the more I went into it, the more weird it got and the more repetitive it got. And when I started to figure out what was going on with this house, I don't know, I didn't really care for it. So I guess if you end up liking this kind of a twist, and I know a lot of people like things that are really weird and strange. I do too, to a point, but it kind of depends on how weird and strange and in what way. And in this case, it just didn't work for me. And like I said, it was pretty repetitive, I felt. You know, she's learning the same information and then she'd get like a little bit more. And then she'd learn the same information and get a little bit more. And the same information and a little bit more. And I'm like, okay, just tell me the new stuff. I don't need to hear a rehash of all the old stuff that we already know. But there was one part in particular that was really freaky. It reminded me of Zelda, if you've played that. It's in Ocarina of Time, and you have those creepy like zombie guys or whatever they are, and they'll jump on your back and you're trying to get them to get off you. There was a scene in this book that was very reminiscent of that, and it was very creepy and very well written, so I really enjoyed that part. But otherwise, this one just didn't do it for me. Okay, so now on to the adult book, starting with Bellevue by Robin Cook. And this is my first book by Robin Cook, but if you've seen my wrap-up video for November, you'll know that I don't think this is indicative of his normal writing style, because he started the medical mystery thriller genre, and he's so prolific and has so many books and is so well read, and I don't think that he would have been that way if he wrote the way he wrote in this book, because the writing in this was not very good, and it was very, 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 very repetitive. Like, I thought These Fleeting Shadows was repetitive. This one was worse. It was just like the same descriptions, the same dialogue, the same plot points over and over and over again. And I just kept reading because I kept thinking something had to change, something had to be different. And while I did enjoy how it ended, I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite. It was very mediocre in my opinion. And then speaking of medical mediocre books, I want to talk about The Graceview Patient. And this one started out really good because there was a strong mystery and you're trying to figure out why she's, well, you know why she's in the hospital, but there's certain things that are happening while she's in the hospital, and she's very much an unreliable narrator because you don't know if it's something creepy happening in the hospital or if it's her illness that is causing her to act the way she acts or see the things that she sees. And so at first the mystery was very strong, and I'm the type of person where if I get halfway through a book, I have to finish it. I have to DNF before the halfway point, or I feel like I've invested too much time in it and I need to finish it. So that was the case in this one, but again, it got very repetitive, which made it very boring, and you just had endless pages about being in the hospital and having her things pumped into her veins and meeting this other girl that was also there, and it was just pages on pages of just medical stuff over and over and over again, which was kind of intriguing and interesting at the beginning, but over time I just got more and more bored and I just wanted to know what the mystery was. And I was expecting this mystery to pack a punch, and it didn't. Pretty much just petered out, and you know, you have an explanation but it's a little bit ambiguous, and it was like I could tell you what it is in 2 sentences. So it was nothing complicated or particularly interesting because I've seen the same type of twist in other books and movies. And so I felt very dissatisfied with the ending. I thought it was very lackluster and did not satisfy my need to know the mystery. And I kind of wish I would have just DNF'd it. And then we have Play Nice. And this one hurts me because I normally really like Rachel Harrison, but I feel like the last few books that she's come out with, I haven't really liked. So now I'm like, I don't know, because I used to love her books, and now, like, all the ones that are coming out, I'm just like, eh. So I don't know how I feel about this author anymore, which makes me so sad. And this was a haunted house book, which is my absolute favorite. I love haunted house books, and I was very excited for it. But I could not stand the main character. I hated her. And reads in a way that you know she's supposed to be unlikable, so it's not like when authors write a character that you're supposed to root for, but you just don't because you dislike them. This one, I could tell you're not really supposed to like her, and some people felt like that gave her complexity and stuff, and I do agree that having a character with flaws is a good thing, but in this case, it just drove me nuts. I just did not like her, and because I disliked her so much, she was one of the most unlikable characters I've ever read, I just couldn't care less about what happened to her. And so every time something scary or creepy would happen in the house, I'm just like, I don't honestly care if you get hurt, so I wasn't rooting for her. And this book wasn't as creepy as I wanted it to be, and it kind of had a tiny bit of a romance, but I wanted it to either be more of a romance or less of a romance. It was kind of just in the middle, and so it just, I don't know, I just didn't love this one, unfortunately, which sucks because I love the premise, I love the cover, I love the author normally, but yeah, this one just didn't do it for me. So then we had Myra, and this is a horror novella, and I got a NetGalley arc of this one, and I'm so glad that I got it for free and didn't pay money on this because, again, I did not like it. I thought it was so boring. I thought it was more to do with the friendship than it did with the mystery at the house, and I wanted to hear about the house. I couldn't care less about her friendship with this other girl that didn't treat her very well. I just didn't care about that, but yet there was pages upon pages about that, and I just didn't care, and I just didn't feel like the ending was very satisfying. And so for this being such a short novel, I just didn't like it. It just didn't work for me. I kind of liked the vibes, and the setting and stuff, but that was about the only good thing I could say about this book. And then we have Can You Solve the Murder? I just did a video about this book a couple of weeks ago if you saw it, and I liked the premise of this book because it's kind of a choose your own adventure, but I feel like that aspect of it was a letdown because a lot of times it would just say go to this section or go to that section, or if you wrote down this number, go to this section, or you could interview people, but it kept bringing you back to that point so that you could interview all of them. And so I just didn't feel like it was a true choose your own adventure book like what I would read when I was a kid. There wasn't enough choices. The choices that we did get I thought were kind of dumb and lame at some times, or like one of them it would be like, do you choose to leave and never come back or whatever, and obviously you're not going to choose that way because then the book would just end and you'd never know who the murderer was. And so it's like, why even have that as a choice, and so I don't know, I think this was a very mediocre murder mystery, and the whole like gimmicky choose your own adventure thing just didn't work for this book, and so I just didn't really enjoy my time with it, if I'm being honest. And then the last two books I want to talk about are both thrillers, and I feel the same way about both of them, so that's why I'm kind of lumping them together. I'm talking about The Bachelorette Party and Forget Me Not, and despite the title Forget Me Not, yes, I'm going to forget you because you're very forgettable, and that's how I felt about both of these books. I felt like they were very mediocre and they were very forgettable, and it was just a very typical thriller. There was nothing new or interesting or exciting. It was all the same stuff I've already read before. One was about a cult, which was Forget Me Not, but it's all the same tropes that every cult book has, and The Bachelorette Party was the same type of stuck on this island and getting picked off and you're trying to figure out who. And while I like that premise, I really do, it has to be done in a certain way for me to enjoy it, and I felt like this was just done, I don't know, lazily or something. I just felt it was really mediocre, and that's really all I have to say about these books is they were forgettable, they were boring, they were very typical thrillers, so not something I would recommend. So this is Editing Cindy. I was editing this video and I realized that I completely skipped a book, so there was only 9 on here. So the other one that didn't work for me was called Snowdrowned, but I read this book clear back in January and I honestly can't remember why I didn't like it. I know it was a YA book and it was probably one of those ones that just kind of felt a little too YA or maybe mediocre, but I honestly don't remember why I didn't like this one because it was so long ago, so I apologize for that. But just know that Snow Drowned was the 10th book. So that's going to be it for this video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up to let me know. Please leave me a comment to let me know what your worst book of the year was and why you didn't like it. If you aren't comfortable leaving comments but you want to help my channel, then go ahead and just leave an emoji, maybe like a frowny face or something. And please subscribe to my channel if you feel so inclined. I post every Friday, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!